he connected with a kindred spirit.
My mom met Michael at work and fell in love.
They had like this kind of like glow, sparkle kind of romance.
But their passionate love story was cut short one fateful night.
You've been shot in the head?
She and her boyfriend had been shot and needed assistance immediately.
While two victims cling to life, detectives must unravel what went wrong.
Was this a robbery gone wrong, or was this an execution?
Someone had been stalking her and peeking through our windows.
And when a possible third victim emerges, the investigation goes into overdrive.
I remember asking, where's my sister? Where's Star?
She didn't answer the phone for none of us. She didn't call back or anything. Something ain't add up.
It's a case filled with miracles.
God had other plans. She was still alive.
And monsters.
He was a controlling man, very controlling man.
It was crazy. Only Satan is that controlling.
There are legitimate concerns. Will he do this again?
They found 70 human bones behind a grocery store.
He was the devil's child, I would say.
August 5th, 2016, Charlotte, North Carolina. It's the last days of a sweltering summer in the Tar Heel State.
Charlotte is one of the fastest growing cities in America, and that's been that way for decades now.
It's a college town, and UNC Charlotte sits right in the middle of University City Boulevard.
It's a wonderful place, just wonderful.
But as night falls on the charming city, a desperate 911 call comes in to local dispatch.
The dispatch received a very unsettling, disturbing call.
The caller identifies herself as 46-year-old Katrina Paul.
She seemed to be in highly distress, and she was stumbling over her words.
Katrina said she'd been shot.
Stop me. He shot me. Okay, where was you with that? In my head. You were shot in the head?
Yes, ma'am.
Katrina goes on to say that she isn't the only victim in need of medical assistance.
She said her fiance, Michael Gretzinger, had also been shot.
Okay, where did you get shot at?
He's in the head.
By the time police arrive on the scene, Katrina is barely conscious.
You take her, I've got him.
And her fiancé, Michael, is in even more dire shape.
Hey, sir, can you hear me?
He was alive, but barely.
I've got a pulse here.
He was non-responsive and unconscious, unable to communicate to them.
Michael was on the brink of death, and they had to move fast if they wanted to save his life.
38-year-old Army veteran Michael Gretzinger had a passion for creativity.
After concluding his time in the military in 2009, he started pursuing some of his other dreams.
He wanted to pursue an acting career.
He also wrote poetry.
He was always looking out for everybody, trying to lift people up and inspire them.
To fund his passions, Michael started working odd jobs around the Charlotte metropolitan area.
Eventually, he found a job at a grocery store.
And it was there he met 44-year-old Katrina Paul.
My mom met Michael at work. They worked together and became close. He was a cool dude.
You say you write poetry?
Yeah, not like Shakespeare or whatever.
Okay.
More like spoken word stuff.
Well, that's really cool.
Michael was drawn to Katrina's bubbly personality.
My mom's very goofy, and her laughter is amazing as well. She laughs about anything. She talks to anyone, and she hugs everybody. That's the warm spirit in her.
As outgoing as she was, she's like, you know, kind of like the life of the party in a sense. And I think he was like one of those kind of guys where like he didn't meet a stranger.
It wasn't long before the two became more than just co-workers.
they would be around each other, and it was kind of like a puppy love kind of thing. They had that kind of newfound love that felt familiar. I could tell that my mom was happy.
After just 6 months of dating, Michael proposed.
When Michael wanted to take it to the next level with my mom, I gave him my blessing because he was so respectable about it. He didn't want to impose, he didn't want to intrude. And I'm a mama's boy, so that was important to me. It only felt natural that they would be looking for a happily ever after.
And as their wedding day drew near, everything seemed to be going the happy couple's way.
The two started to look for a place to live together, and they found a place in the university area of Charlotte.
She was super excited. We talked about her decorating and decor and things like that.
Michael also found a new job in radio that he really enjoyed.
He went on to become a well-known and respected,
They
fun-loving
were
radio
newlyweds
DJ.
settling into
For
a
Michael
new
and
city.
Katrina, they wanted
It
to
seemed
start
like
his
the
brand new
sky
life.
was the limit.
They had
They
one
had, like,
baby
this
and then another.
kind of like glow,
Things moving
sparkle,
quickly.
kind
They
of
were all in.
romance.
Until she disappeared. But
No one
now,
could get a hold of
first
her.
responders have arrived at the couple's apartment
Something doesn't
to
feel
find
right.
them both suffering from gunshot
That she
wounds
left
to the
on her
head.
own accord.
She did
Paramedics
struggle
determined that
with
both
bouts
were in
of
very serious
depression.
condition and in need
She
of
was
immediate medical
sometimes
care.
unpredictable.
It was a miracle that
I wish
he
I
lived
could say this is
still alive.
unusual, but
And
it's
as an
not.
ambulance
Maybe
rushes
she just
them to
needed
the
some
closest
time away.
hospital, their
were
lives
her
hang in the
secrets to
balance.
It quickly
They
became
hit it
a
off
race
right
against
away.
the clock.
She
It's
left out the
unclear
details
if
of her
either will
being
see the
married.
light of day in the morning.
He was angry at her for lying.
Stab wounds to her
After
body.
settling down in
It was
Charlotte, North
extremely
Carolina, 38-year-old Michael
The autopsy
Betzinger was
finds her
pursuing
death
his
happened
dreams
maybe
with
1
the
to 2
support
months
and
prior.
encouragement of the woman he
But wait a
loved,
minute. She's
Katrina
been missing
Paul.
for the last
My
couple
mom
years.
met Michael at work and fell in love. They were together about 6 months
October
before he
14,
proposed. and they moved in
2014.
together.
It's Tuesday afternoon. The engaged couple was looking forward to what the future held in store for them. Of $3 million.
I think they just were
San Diego's
excited
called
about taking it
America's
to the
finest
next
city.
level.
You
It
have
was
everything
like
there.
that
You have
commitment
beaches,
to
you
each
have
other
mountains.
for
You
the
can
rest
ski,
of their
surf,
lives.
play golf, all in the same day.
But now, it's
It's a big
uncertain
tourism
if they'll
hub,
even live through
big
the
military
night,
hub,
as
so
paramedics
a lot of
rush them
people are
to the
really
emergency
drawn
room.
here.
They are both clean
It's just
to
beautiful
life.
year-round.
She had been
Everyone
shot
who
in the
comes to
head
San
twice
Diego
and was
feels
teetering on
that
the edge
essence
of
of
consciousness the
nice
entire time.
relaxation.
But he was in much worse condition than she was. He was non-responsive.
While
But
ER doctors work to
Garrett
stabilize the
Murphy is
couple,
feeling
anything but detectives arrive at their apartment and begin trying to piece together what happened.
Why would somebody do this to somebody, first of all? And
He's
how do we get them
desperately
behind
trying to get a
bars and
hold
pay
of
the
his
penalty?
friend, Elizabeth Sullivan. Detectives
She had a
don't
very
find
close
much evidence
relationship with
left
Garrett.
behind.
They talked on a regular
Investigators
basis.
do not find any signs of
So
forced
when
injury
Garrett didn't hear
or
back
robbery
from
at the
Elizabeth,
scene of the crime.
it's almost like an instinctual.
To the detectives,
something
this
doesn't feel right.
suggests a crime of methodical
And now,
execution.
after 24
Michael and
hours
his
with no
girlfriend
word
were
from
not
Elizabeth,
the victims
Garrett
of a
is ready
random
to get the
crime.
police involved.
They were targeted by
San Diego
someone they
911.
knew.
What's your emergency?
And one of the responding officers already
And he
has
has
a lead
good
on a
reason to be
possible
worried.
suspect.
He knew that
I
she
saw
struggled
someone
with mental
when we
health
first arrived.
issues.
The officer said when he arrived at the apartment complex, he saw a
31-year-old
man
Elizabeth
running with a
Sullivan
towel.
had first been diagnosed with depression as a teenager in Camp
explains
He tried to run after the mysterious
Liz had
individual,
some mental
but he
health
soon
struggles
disappeared
and
into the
different
night.
things in her past.
The officer said that he saw
ailed
him
her.
about 60
She had a
yards
difficult
away,
time
and so he
managing her
wasn't able to
depression.
give a very good description.
Be on the lookout
She
for
had
a black
also been
male,
diagnosed with
5'9",
borderline
green shirt.
personality disorder.
Borderline personality disorder is a condition that manifests in ways that
Armed
look
with
like
this
emotional
description,
dysregulation,
the officers start knocking on the doors
behavioral
of
or
neighbors, looking
cognitive
to see if they
dysregulation,
can provide
chaos in
any more
relationships,
additional
and
information.
this unstable sense of self.
Unfortunately, none of the
If it's not
neighbors has
diagnosed
seen a man
appropriately,
matching
if it's
the
not
suspect's
diagnosed early
description.
on, and if you don't seek the
None
proper
of the people
treatment,
that the
it
officer
can wreak
spoke
havoc
to
in anybody's life.
reported seeing anyone in a green
One of the
shirt the night
challenges that
before,
she may have faced
and
as a
actually
result of
had
having
no
this
recollection of
condition would
anyone
be
fitting that description
not
living
feeling
in the
understood,
community at all.
not feeling seen, not feeling validated. And with that
Meanwhile,
struggle, you can also
news of the
find
shooting is
coping
spreading to Katrina
through
and Michael's
substance
loved
use
ones.
and the like.
I got a call. It was a detective on the phone. He's like,
But
I
there
need
was
you to
more
get
to
to Carolina
Liz than
Medical
her
Center. Your
battles
mother's
with
been in a
mental
fatal
health.
accident.
She had this free
I did not
spirit
cry, but I
about
couldn't
her.
help it. I was
She
just
was
emotional.
creative and charismatic,
I was a
and
nervous wreck.
she really just had that
As Nikki
energy that
races to
pulled
the
you
hospital,
in.
she
And
tries
that's
to get
such
the
a
rest of her
beautiful thing
siblings
to
on the
have, where you
phone.
can connect and meet with
I started
different
calling
people.
my brothers, TJ and Ty. My sister as well.
And in 2009, Liz
I answered
connected
the
with
phone,
Matthew
and it was
Sullivan,
like my mother was
a handsome young
in
sailor
the
at a
hospital,
nearby
that she's
naval
been
base
shot.
in Norfolk.
At the time,
He was a
I didn't
couple
know
of
what
years
was
younger
going
than
on, who
Liz,
did it.
but his
I just
kind,
got up
charming
and
disposition
went to the
attracted Liz
hospital.
right away.
I think I was
When you
either
meet someone
at
for the
work or
first
leaving
time and you're
work
truly
in
attracted
Columbia,
to them,
South Carolina.
that's a
when I
beautiful
got
thing.
that call, and
Friends
I just
could
remember
see
my
how much
colleagues
Liz's
saying,
eyes lit up
"It's
around
not
Matt,
safe for you to
and
drive.
they
You
loved
shouldn't
seeing
drive
her
like
truly
this.
happy
Too
for the first
emotional."
time.
When But their Katrina's budding children romance arrived at the soon hospital,
ran into trouble.
They're overwhelmed with
He
fear
learned that
and
he was being stationed out in
confusion.
San
It was
Diego.
just like, it was what? Like a...
Which
Everything
meant he
stopped.
would be
It was
moving
so
to the other
emotional
side of the
at that
country.
time. Like, I didn't...
I want you to leave. No.
I just wanted to see my mama.
Come with me.
And make sure she was okay at that time.
The easy thing for them to do to stay together was to get married.
Seeing my mother on that bed, it was
Will you?
something that I never thought
Will
I
you
would
really?
Yes.
Let's do
see.
it.
Here's a guy in
Michael was on the
uniform
same floor
in the
of the
military. He's
hospital.
going to give you
I remember
stability. He's going to
wanting
give you the
to
life
go
that
visit
you've
with
always
him
dreamed of.
and see
So
how he
she
was
says
doing,
yes.
and I wasn't allowed to.
Detectives are hoping family members might have a lead on who did this to the beloved couple.
They asked me, do I know what happened or did I know? I'm like, sir, no.
Do you know anyone who would want to hurt your mother or Michael?
No. They're just really nice, everyday people, you know?
The family was shocked that this had happened. They were a couple that generally just spent most of their time with each other.
It was nothing I could tell them. I had the slightest idea.
They were very loving, kind, and gentle people. Not the type of couple or individuals to have enemies.
But Nikki says there's something else she needs to tell the investigators.
Me and my brothers, we've been trying to get a hold of our sister Star to let her know what's going on, but she's not answering her phone.
We calling and calling and calling and calling and calling Star. She never picked up. She never answered the phone.
I remember asking, "Where's my sister? Where's Star?"
We're really worried about her.
No one had been able to get in touch with her, and they were unable to reach her by phone for several hours. It was very concerning.
If Star knew what was going on, she would have been there. So a lot of things was just going through my head about what could have happened or what's going on.
Now the family is starting to worry. Could she be another victim in this crime?
38-year-old radio DJ Michael Gretzinger and his fiancée Katrina Paul are undergoing emergency surgery after being shot in the head in their Charlotte apartment.
The couple's loved ones couldn't believe what had just happened. No one can really imagine who could do something like this.
But while speaking to police at the hospital, Katrina's children have just revealed another cause for concern. Their sister, Star Meters, is missing.
Star was the only one that didn't come to the hospital. She didn't show up. She didn't answer the phone for none of us. She didn't call back or anything.
There's absolutely no way that something like this would have happened, and she wouldn't have been by her mother's side.
Just the fact that she's not here right now, something's got to be wrong.
Star's siblings tell the detectives that she was closer to their mother than any of them.
She was more of a mama's girl than me, you know?
She was very passionate about the things that she loved, family being probably number one.
Has your sister ever disappeared like this before? No, never.
My sister's not nowhere to be found, and our mother's laying in the hospital bed. Something ain't adding up.
They're starting to worry she could be another victim in this crime.
You're already looking at 2 victims. It's not a far stretch to think that there might be a third.
When's the last time you spoke with your sister? A few weeks ago, she came over to the house.
She called me and told me she had somebody with her. And when she showed up, the person she had with her was Tim.
Nikki explains that Timothy Crumity is her mother's ex, the man she was with before Michael.
Him and my mother, they dated for some years, but then they broke up a couple years ago.
The family goes on to tell the investigators that Timothy was the pastor of a church nearby in Concord, North Carolina.
The first time I met Tim was in middle school. I was like 12 or 13.
I never liked him at all. Like, I guess it was just the feeling that I got of his presence.
He did a lot of things behind closed doors. Timothy tried to be two different people.
They had an on and off again relationship. You would see him and then you wouldn't.
Katrina's family says that the more turbulent their relationship became, the more Tim showed his true colors.
Over the course of her relationship with Tim, he became more and more controlling.
Abusive, physically, I really never seen, but his words was very abusive.
And after over 10 years together, Katrina finally had enough.
She put an end to this on again and off again relationship.
When he came over to our house that day with Star, he was definitely trying to weasel his way back into our lives. What is he doing here?
Just hear him out. Listen, I really miss you guys. For a while there, I thought we was family, right?
I guess.
I got you a little something.
He tried to make a peace offering with me. He tried to bring me some liquor.
Thanks, Tim.
I apologize for everything. I hope you forgive me so we can be in each other's lives again. That's very kind of you. Tell your mom hello for me, right?
Star was more forgiving, but Nikki was not buying it.
I'm like, okay, cool. Because I don't like people I don't like in my house.
I'm the oldest, so I definitely remember more about my mom's relationship with Tim, more than Star does.
Investigators agreed that Tim's behavior did seem concerning. They definitely wanted to talk to him, and as soon as possible.
But could a man of God really be capable of this kind of attack?
Hey, come here. You're gonna want to take a look at this.
They were shocked to find that he had an alarming and long criminal history, spanning back as far as 25 years. And this isn't the first time he's been suspected of murder.
North Carolina police investigating the shooting of Michael Gretzinger and his fiancée Katrina Paul have discovered that Katrina's 29-year-old daughter, Star, is also missing.
Nobody could find her. She was just like, she just fell off the earth. I was calling and calling and calling and calling and calling people, but nobody saw her or seen her.
Detectives have also learned that Katrina's volatile ex, Timothy Crumity, had recently been trying to rekindle a relationship with the family.
Timothy is a local pastor at a church in Concord, North Carolina.
But while Tim may preach the word of God, his rap sheet is more befitting of a career criminal.
Hey, come here and take a look at this.
Police records indicated that Tim has spent nearly a decade of his life behind bars.
Timothy was a good manipulator, so he made himself look good, but was also a bad person at the same time.
Arrest records show that Tim's first serious run-in with the law dates back to 1989.
In September of that year, Tim was arrested for armed robbery and receiving stolen goods in Onslow County, North Carolina.
For his crime, Tim was sentenced to 8 years in prison and finally released in 1998.
After he was released, it seemed like Tim was just living a normal, law-abiding citizen type of life.
He got a job with a flooring company in Kannapolis, a city just north of Charlotte, and he was also serving as a pastor for a local church.
But just a few years later, Tim found himself back on the wrong side of the law.
In June of 2005, the boss at the flooring company where Tim worked, Danny Johnson, was found shot to death in a local park.
Danny was last seen alive with Tim at a bank in Charlotte. Danny had loaned Tim $5,000 to pay off a debt.
In September of that same year, police working the case arrested Tim for murder. under the assumption he killed Danny to avoid having to pay back the $5,000 loan.
He spent the next 5 years in Mecklenburg County Jail awaiting trial.
But after a lengthy investigation failed to turn up any physical evidence tying Tim to Danny Johnson's death, the DA was forced to drop the charges for fear of not being able to secure a guilty verdict at trial.
And in 2013, Tim was at the center of yet another homicide investigation.
On July 3rd, 2013, Tim called 911 and claimed that an armed intruder shot his then wife, Sharon.
Tim said he managed to get the gun away from the robber and shot him in the head.
He essentially described it as some sort of robbery gone wrong.
But the evidence at the crime scene didn't add up with Tim's version of events.
The robber was identified as a handyman from the neighborhood, James Luther Banks.
James and Sharon both died of gunshot wounds to the head, while Tim walked away unscathed.
James did not have a history of violent crime, and his family says that he's the furthest thing from a thief or violent killer.
Compare that to Tim, who already had a criminal record and was suspected in a prior homicide, it just didn't add up.
Despite the suspicions surrounding Tim and his version of events, police could never prove that he was lying, and so he was never actually charged with the death of these two people.
After being involved in 2 homicides, you would think Tim would lay low. But less than 6 months later, he became a subject of another police investigation.
In December 2013, Tim's house burned to the ground. Investigation revealed that he was the person that set his house on fire.
Finally, investigators were able to turn up enough evidence to put Tim behind bars for arson and insurance fraud. But his shady history still doesn't end there.
Shortly after his release from jail, Tim befriended an elderly woman in Rowan County and moved in with her. Tim managed to convince her to appoint him as her power of attorney and was responsible for her estate. Then in April 2016, this woman died under suspicious circumstances, and Tim was the executor of her estate.
There was whispers that he killed her for her money, but that's all they ever were, whispers.
Soon after, Tim moved to Concord, North Carolina for a fresh start and got another job as a preacher. It was there he met Katrina Paul and her family.
It wasn't too much of a big church. It was a growing church, but he was a good preacher.
However, to the investigators in Charlotte, one thing is now clear. Tim Crumedy was far from a righteous man.
Tim was not the servant of God everyone thought he was, the upstanding citizen. Instead, he was a career criminal with a trail of bodies in his wake.
Homicide.
And when detectives receive a call from the hospital where Michael and Katrina are undergoing treatment, it sounds like Tim's body count may have just gone up.
Despite the doctor's best efforts, they were unable to remove the bullets from Michael's brain because they had gone so far through. And unfortunately, he succumbed to his injuries.
I sat there as he took actually his last breath.
When I learned that Michael passed away, it hurt me because I knew how much my mother loved Michael. I knew how much Michael loved my mother.
But in spite of the tragic news, there's also a glimmer of hope.
The doctors had better news about Katrina.
Miraculously, neither bullet penetrated her brain.
She was in stable condition.
Okay, we'll be right there.
And she's ready to talk to detectives.
Despite her weak condition, she was very ready to tell them exactly what happened to her.
Homicide detectives in Charlotte, North Carolina are zeroing in on Tim Crumedy as the prime suspect in the shootings of Michael Gretzinger and his fiancée, Katrina Paul.
Michael unfortunately passed away from his injuries at the hospital, but doctors were able to save Katrina.
Now that Katrina is out of surgery and in stable condition, she's ready to speak with detectives.
Despite her weak condition, she was very ready to tell them exactly what happened to her.
She tells investigators that there's no doubt in her mind who shot her.
She says it was Tim Cremiti.
Timothy. He always put on this persona that he was a great man, that he was a child of God, and he really wasn't.
Katrina tells the detectives when she first met Tim almost 2 decades ago, she had no idea his pious persona was a total sham.
About 2001, my mom came home from church one Sunday. She had a great service, and she wanted us to come to church with her next Sunday. I said, okay, cool, we go to church. The pastor was Tim.
Katrina and Tim hit it off from day one.
When she first met Tim, she was enamored by him.
He spoiled my mom, and he did everything that he could to keep her happy.
But once they started dating, Katrina began to see a different side of her pastor boyfriend.
Over time, Tim became more and more controlling in their relationship. He wanted to know who Kim was talking to. Where was she going? Who was she with? When would she be back?
He had been stalking her and peeking through our windows and stuff. It was crazy. Only Satan is that controlling.
Eventually, Katrina realized she needed to find a way out of the relationship.
She had made several attempts to remove Timothy from her life. I think she went about it the way, we're all taught, you don't accept phone calls, you move away.
She took a restraining order out on him because he was crazy. He just became obsessed with her.
Then, in 2014, she met Michael Gretzinger.
She realized when she met Michael that she was with someone who respected her, who loved her.
My mother was happy and in love.
Katrina felt like she'd finally erased him from her life until the night of August 5th, 2016.
Katrina and Michael were supposed to go out on a date that night, but on their way to the restaurant, Katrina realized she had forgotten her phone.
She realized she left her cell phone at home, so they turned around to go back.
But when they arrived back home, there was an unwelcome surprise waiting for them.
Somehow, Timothy found out where my mother lived, and he got into the apartment.
Tim, what are you
Shut up.
here?
Shut up. You, get over there. Okay. Get on your knees.
Okay. Take it easy. Take it easy.
She watched in horror as Tim forced Michael to his knees.
Then he fired 2 shots into his head.
Timothy shot Michael and left him bleeding on the floor.
But for Katrina, her waking nightmare was only beginning.
He then tied her hands behind her back and forced her into the passenger seat of her own car, and then drove her to his home in Rowan County.
He kept her there for several hours, just trying to figure out what to do, before ultimately putting her back in the car.
From there, Tim drove Katrina to a rural area on the outskirts of Charlotte.
He pulled her out of the car, and Tim told her to turn around.
She thought he was about to untie her and set her free.
But instead, Tim drew his weapon.
He raised his gun and shot her in the back of the head. Once she fell to the ground, he aimed and fired again.
With her ears ringing, Katrina thought for sure she was dying.
But God had other plans. She was still alive.
If Katrina wanted to continue living, Tim couldn't find out that her heart was still beating, and beating faster than ever.
She continued to play dead as Tim loaded her in the trunk of his car and drove her to another location.
When the car stopped and Katrina heard Tim get out, she kept waiting.
She waited in the trunk in darkness, unsure what would happen next.
Eventually, she decided she needed to get help if she was going to survive.
She started to try and get out of the trunk, pushing against the back of the seat and feeling around to see if there was anything that would help her get out.
My mother got out the trunk from a latch that was in the trunk that you can pull.
As she emerged from the trunk, She was relieved to see she was back at her apartment complex.
Miraculously, she was able to stumble upstairs and call 911.
You
were shot in the head?
Yes, ma'am.
She was fading, like she was trying to leave, but she was too strong. She was fighting it.
It's extremely rare to survive a gunshot wound to the head, but 2 gunshots, that's practically unheard of.
However, the joy over Katrina's miraculous recovery is marred by the ongoing investigation into her daughter's disappearance.
Did Tim say anything to you about Anastasia?
About Star? Oh, why?
To go through an ordeal like that, only to pull through and to realize that your child is missing, that had to be a devastating blow.
We know that you've been through a lot already.
We're going to find her.
Armed with Katrina's statement, the investigators are ready to make their move on Tim Crumedy.
They have all the evidence they need to arrest Tim. Police take Tim into custody that Sunday.
Police charged him with first-degree murder and also assault, kidnapping, and attempted murder.
Tim's congregation is stunned.
When you're a pastor, people trust you. The congregation trusts you. They believe in you. They believe that you're giving the word of God. And to have this happen, you know, the public was actually so shocked at all of it.
But where is Katrina's youngest daughter, Star?
Investigators really believed he knew where Star was.
They feel like they are at Tim's mercy to get the information they need about her disappearance.
After surviving the brutal attack that claimed her fiancé's life, Katrina Paul has told detectives that the man responsible for pulling the trigger is her ex-boyfriend, Tim Crumedy.
I just thought it was a miracle that she survived. It's proof that not only is God watching over us, but he's not done with her yet.
Now, North Carolina police have taken Tim into custody and are trying to get a confession out of him, as well as the whereabouts of Katrina's missing daughter, Star.
Where is she, Tim?
Unfortunately, Tim isn't forthcoming.
I have nothing to say to you. I want an attorney.
Tim refused to admit to anything.
While Tim is booked into jail to await trial, the investigators continue their efforts to find Star.
The detectives did their best. They tried, but no one could find her.
I never accepted that she was gone, not for a second. I still had hope that my sister was somewhere.
But as more time passes, that hope becomes harder to hold on to.
It was months, and then it was years. And as Tim's trial approached, they still didn't have any answers about what happened to Anastasia.
I was angry. I was very angry.
I just felt so sorrowful for the family, the suffering they went through. I don't know how they deal with that burden.
Despite their pain, Katrina's family is standing strong by their mother's side when Tim's trial gets underway in February 2018.
When prosecutors make their opening statements, they contend that this crime was about one thing: control.
Timothy was a controlling man. He was a very controlling man.
When Katrina broke up with him and started dating Michael, prosecutors said that lit a flame of jealousy in his heart.
The thought of being rejected, it pushed him over the edge.
According to the prosecution, the events that played out on the night of August 5th, 2016, were the direct result of Tim's unbridled jealousy and rage.
Tim executed his romantic rival in cold blood and attempted to do the same to his ex-girlfriend. But by sheer luck, she managed to survive.
Among the prosecution's first witnesses was the first officer on the scene, who testified that he saw someone in a green t-shirt running away on the night in question. In court, he identified Tim Crumedy as that person he saw running away.
Investigators thought he may have grabbed a towel from Katrina's apartment to wipe his fingerprints from the crime scene.
But the prosecution's most powerful witness by far is Katrina Paul herself.
Before Katrina took the stand, they played her audio from her 911 call, and it just sent a chill through the entire courtroom.
He shot me. He shot me.
I heard my mom on that 911 call, and I just lost it.
To have that played in a courtroom and broadcast everywhere, that is one brave woman.
Brave enough to take the stand and confront the man who shot her face to face.
It was the first time that she had seen Tim since that night, and he stared at her coldly as she testified.
Katrina was able to describe her incredible story of survival to the jury about getting kidnapped by her ex, shot in the head not once but twice, and escaping from the trunk of the car to get help. It's nothing short of a miracle that she survived to tell them what happened to her.
When the jury retires to deliberate, they take 2 full days to weigh the evidence.
In the end, they found Tim guilty of first-degree murder of Michael Gretzinger, as well as the kidnapping and attempted murder of Katrina Paul.
Tim Cremiti is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
The public was so shocked at all of it. Shocked that a man who professed to be the representative of God would do this.
For Katrina Paul and her loved ones, it's gratifying to see Tim sent away for life. But no punishment can make up for what he did to them.
I don't feel like justice been served, only because he's still here.
I thought it was too lenient. I thought if there's ever a time where capital punishment should be in play, I thought this was one of those times.
And even after Tim is sentenced for his attack on Michael and Katrina, her family still doesn't have answers on Anastasia's whereabouts.
Everyone believed Tim had something to do with her disappearance, but he wouldn't talk.
Another year goes by without any new developments in the case. But on January 15th, 2019, deputies with the Iredell County Sheriff's Office just outside Charlotte receive a chilling 911 call.
Somebody was going to look at some land in Mooresville, and he came across some remains.
They found 70 human bones strewn about a wooded area behind a grocery store.
That evidence was sent eventually to North Carolina State Forensic Team.
It was Anastasia Meters.
For Anastasia's family, it's bittersweet news.
When I found out that it was my sister, I just broke down. We didn't have to look no further. We knew that she was on her journey to heaven.
After that, I just felt cold. You know, I just felt like, I felt a lot of anger.
I'm an older sister, and looking at I would have traded tastes with her.
Although the motive for Starr's murder is still unclear, her family believes it was just another way Tim tried to get back at Katrina for leaving him.
Tim is still the main suspect in Anastasia's murder, but the case is still ongoing and he has not been tried for the crime.
I think that no one imagines these kind of things happening.
This kind of person is moving amongst us every single day. There are other Tim Cremitis out there.
He was the devil's child, I would say.
Don't ever think it can't happen to you, because it really can.
If nothing else, the incident showed us how much we do truly love each other.
Tim didn't take everything from me. He thought he did, but he didn't. I still have my mother. She's still beautiful and strong. It only made her strong. It didn't break us.
This damn thing doesn't work.
What's going on here?
On the evening of May 25th, 2001, we received a suicide call at the Butler Street YMCA in Southeast Atlanta. As homicide detectives, it's our job to respond to any death case where things may seem suspicious.
The building has been converted into a rooming house that rents rooms by the week. We've been in homicide less than a year at this point. We're still considered rookies. We haven't dealt with a case quite like this before. So we roll up to our location right in front of the Y. We've got our victim clearly just out there in the middle of God and everybody.
Looks like we could have a jumper.
Yeah, what a way to go, man.
Detectives,
What do we got?
this is 51-year-old Lawrence Green. EMS from Grady is pronounced dead on the scene.
Looks like we got a cracked second floor window over here.
Think it jumped?
Jumped, fell, pushed. We'll have to see.
All right.
I'm not seeing any gunshot or stab wounds here.
Right.
At this point, we know there's two facts that happened. There's a window that's broken. This victim more than likely came out of that window and he's here on the ground. Now what we have to figure out is how he got here. Was it himself? Was he involved in an altercation with someone else? Or did he fall out the window accidentally?
Hey, boss, can you confirm that the victim's apartment is on the second floor?
Yeah.
All right, if so, we need to go ahead and lock it down.
All right.
Thank you, man.
Once the medical examiner gets there, she gives us permission so we can actually touch this victim.
May I?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
And then we go into the victim's pockets, and I find a piece of paper with a phone number written on it.
Well, could be something, could be nothing. All right, let's bag this. Thanks.
What do you got?
Lawrence Green.
When we look up, that window's busted out. That's 213. So we got an issue.
All right, let's go put our eyes on it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doc.
We decided to go and move this whole crime scene upstairs and start our secondary phase of this investigation.
When we get there, his front door to his room is wide open.
No forced entry.
All right, well, I don't see any signs of a struggle.
Cute. Could be his jumping off point.
The position of this chair and the window being wide open, this could have been a good jumping off point for this victim if he decided to take his own life.
What do you think? 30, 35 feet?
Sound about right to me. About 3 stories.
Right. So I think when our victim went out the window, he hit the second floor window on the way down. That's why it's broken.
That makes sense.
Nothing's adding up to something that was intentional, that this person died at the hands of another person. So we are really scratching our heads right now.
All right, I'm not spotting like a suicide note or nothing like that, right?
No.
Typically, when someone commits suicide, they leave something behind to let people know why they did that.
So check this out, Vinny. Why is the door open, right? I mean, if this brother's going out the window.
It's a good question. Maybe he wanted someone to see him.
Maybe he had company.
Maybe he had some company.
We don't know, but we're not leaving till we get an answer. As we're just going through our victim's room, we're noticing just random items.
Oh, wait a minute, Vinny. Oh, check this out.
Pawn shop.
There's a pawn ticket just conspicuous, sticking out like a sore thumb, and it's got Northside Pawn written on it.
Yo, this is from today.
Right. So why would you pawn something if you're gonna be committing suicide later that same day? Let's get some eyeballs. Somebody saw something.
So our next order of business, in these types of environments, you gotta go talk to the manager.
What's up, man? Detective Velasquez. Abraham.
We meet this Middle Eastern brother who goes by the name of Abraham Ibarra.
Okay, so we want to talk about the guy in 313. Lawrence Green?
Yeah, I know him.
Have you seen him today?
Yeah, he was going to buy a computer. He's very excited about it.
Around 6:45 p.m., Abraham says he sees our victim, Lawrence Green, actually walk back inside holding a computer and then walks upstairs towards his apartment.
Was he with anybody?
2 men.
Now here we go. We got 2 other people in the mix.
Describe them.
Our alarm bells and our heads go off. I mean, these could be potential witnesses, or they could be involved if our victim's death is ruled a homicide.
One was dark-skinned, short, stocky build. He was wearing a black t-shirt.
And the other guy?
Taller, kind of lanky, wearing a white t-shirt. Both had short hair.
So they just went upstairs and you didn't see them anymore?
No. They came back to the front desk a few minutes later.
Abraham says our victim came back downstairs with the stout guy, and they were asking how to spell the word Parmalat.
Parmalat? What is that?
Well, apparently it was the password to get into the computer, and they kept spelling it wrong.
So what happened next?
They went back upstairs. Next thing I know, I hear a commotion.
And then he hears glass breaking. We know what that is. We know our victim went out the window.
And those two guys come running back, said there's been an accident, took off.
That's just crazy because an accident means somebody fell out of a window.
So did they go back and help Mr. Green?
No.
These guys haul ass. They don't stand by.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
So we got at least 2 really not good citizens leaving our crime scene we got to get a hold of.
So you believe in this is an accident situation?
No way.
Me either.
You know, we're starting to think right now this was not a suicide.
Excuse me. Are you police?
That's right.
This guy walks up to us and identifies himself as Tom Hamilton. Basically, Tom says, listen, I was just walking down the street, and all of a sudden I hear like a scream, and then I see this guy hit the ground.
All right, so what else did you see?
2 guys come running out of the building like it was on fire. They ran right past that man on the ground.
Could you describe the 2 guys?
Yeah. One was short and stocky, dark-skinned. The other one was tall and skinny.
That totally matches up what Abraham told us.
All right, did you see where they went?
Yeah, they ran to that corner. A car came up, they got in it, and they sped off.
This is great, because now we have a 3rd person involved in this.
Were you able to get a look at the driver?
What kind of car was it?
It was an older model maroon Buick, I think.
You catch the tags?
No, I didn't.
That's all right. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Well, we're outside talking to this witness, Tom. We get done with him. And all of a sudden, this guy named Gerald Williams walks up to us.
Hey, hold on. I need to talk to you guys.
All right, calm down.
He's upset. Like, he literally is having trouble even speaking to us. We're like, calm down. He's like, I'm his best friend.
All right, so your best friend is Lawrence Green?
Yes, I was there. I know what happened. I saw everything.
This is the guy we're looking for.
Now tell us what happened, brother.
The tragic story of what really happened is a...
Looks like we could have a jumper.
Yeah, what a way to go, man.
We're investigating the suspicious death of 51-year-old Lawrence Green at the historic Butler Street YMCA.
Now, was he with anybody?
It's 2 men.
Though the call came in as a suicide, witness reported seeing the victim with 2 men shortly before his fall out of the window.
2 guys come running out of the building like it was on fire.
What started out as a suicide, at this point, seems to be a homicide.
Hey, hold on. I need to talk to you guys.
At the crime scene, we meet Gerald Williams, who may have the answers to this mystery.
I know what happened. I saw everything. Dude had a front row seat to the crime.
Tell us what happened.
Lawrence told me earlier that day that he met a guy at the pawn shop that was going to sell him a computer.
Now we're thinking back to when we're in Lawrence Green's apartment and we find his pawn receipt.
Check this out.
This is all lining up.
Pawn shop.
So now our timeline is solid.
You were with him?
Not at the pawn shop, but I was here when the guy bought the computer. According to Gerald Williams, he was the only one in his friend Lawrence Green's room when a guy shows up carrying a computer.
And what'd the guy look like?
He was black and about 6 feet tall. Red and blue baseball cap, red t-shirt. This guy being described by Gerald Williams doesn't sound like any of the other 2 people that were described previously. So right now we got a new person in our scenario. He and Lawrence were trying to get the computer to work. Then another guy came in.
What'd he look like?
He was more short and stocky, with a black t-shirt.
The front desk clerk, Abraham, and our witnesses from outside described the same person.
We good? No, man, I can't log in.
According to Gerald Williams, both Lawrence and this guy with the red t-shirt and the ball cap on, they're trying to get the computer to work, but nothing's happening. They're getting no success.
The password is Parmalat.
They couldn't get the computer to work, so they all went downstairs. They go downstairs, and they're trying to figure out how to spell the word Parmalat. And then Lawrence came back by himself.
Deal is dead. Ain't buying a machine I can't get into.
According to Gerald Williams, the short, stout guy, he appears in the room with a brand new guy.
It was a different guy?
Guy in the red t-shirt was gone. Skinny guy replaced him.
We've heard this description before. This is exactly the description of the two men the front desk clerk saw running out of the building after our victim went out of the window.
So now we know the guy in the red and blue baseball cap with the red t-shirt, he skied up. He was nowhere to be found, so maybe he's the getaway driver.
Hey, y'all know what's up, turn around.
Then out of nowhere, according to Gerald, the thick brother pulls out a pistol.
What kind of gun was it?
I think it was a .38.
All right, what did he do next?
Then he started going through our pockets.
This now confirms our victim did not commit suicide. This is a straight stick-up.
I don't know why, but Lawrence started fighting back. Our victim, Lawrence Green, was tussling and fighting back. And at some point, the tall, skinny guy just hauled off and punched Lawrence right in the face. Then they pushed him out the window.
What happened after that?
They just left him. And they killed him, man. They killed my best friend, man. Right now, we feel for this brother Gerald. I mean, he saw something that's probably traumatized him for the rest of his life.
Take my card. If you think of anything, give me a call.
We know if we can identify these guys and get photographs of them, we got to come back and see Gerald. Based on all the witness statements, we know we're looking for 3 suspects. We got all our T's crossed and all our I's dotted at this point. We just don't have names to go with it. This all got kicked off at the pawn shop. Gerald told us that Lawrence Green met a guy there that was going to sell him a computer. We rolled over to Northside Pond to see if they had anything that could help us ID this mystery man.
What's up, man? APD homicide.
How can I help you?
All right, so a guy came in here yesterday.
We meet up with the manager, Robert Valley. We tell him exactly what our business is. We've got this pawn ticket.
So do you recognize this gentleman? Lawrence Green.
He's a regular. Good man.
Okay. Who was working here yesterday?
Yours truly. Lawrence was in here asking about computers.
As he goes into the back to bring something out, when he comes back out, he says that he sees Lawrence talking to another guy.
The guy must have overheard us, and he's telling Lawrence about a great deal on a machine he's selling.
Robert Valley is ear hustling their conversation and could hear the guy tell our victim, hey, I've got a computer that's probably a better price than you're gonna get in here. Let's exchange information.
He wrote his number on a scrap of paper and he gave it to him. We got that same piece of paper of a phone number inside our victim's pocket at the original crime scene. This is big.
Can you describe him?
Black guy. He was wearing a red and blue hat.
This has to be one of our suspects. There's no doubt in our minds right now.
Same description.
You have surveillance cameras in here?
No, but the guy pawned a TV that same day. Let me find the ticket.
Thanks, man.
We're gonna have an actual written record. Here it is. Put together by our suspect.
So it says his name is James Starling out of Decatur.
This is incredible because right now we have the identification of at least one of our 3 suspects.
It's time to learn everything we can about Mr. James Starling of Decatur.
Yeah, man. They're not all gonna be this easy, huh?
All right, let's see what we can find out about Starling.
This is almost too good to be true. We got a name, we got an address, we got a phone number.
Ooh, frequent flyer.
He's got some criminal activity. We even see where he has an arrest for an armed robbery.
He fits the profile. Let's make sure he's our guy.
This is our 2nd homicide case ever. We don't want to leave any stone unturned, but we also want to be careful that we put the right person in jail.
So the phone number belongs to Starling.
Even as a young homicide detective, we got that adrenaline burst. This gives you energy to keep it moving. This is what you feed off of to be a homicide detective, chasing down leads.
All right, so what's the move? Field trip to Decatur? Pay Mr. Sterling a visit?
Maybe. What if we can get him to pay us a visit?
Talk to him.
We call him up, tell him we have a murder warrant for him, and he needs to come down here and clear his name.
That's interesting. Not exactly about a textbook.
No.
This is what me and this guy used to do. We always worked outside the box, even from day one. We believed in each other.
The plan was to reach out to James Starling and basically bluff him. Tell him, we have a warrant for you, but we're not feeling it. All you were doing was selling the computer. That's all you need to do is come and talk to us. That was the plan.
Hello?
There's a big risk. We could scare this guy off. The murder investigation of 51-year-old Lawrence Green is humming along.
What's up, man? APD homicide.
We learned that he interacted at a local pawn shop with one of our suspects named James Starling.
We call up Starling with a plan to get him down to homicide. You know, we've never done this before, so we got our fingers crossed, hoping it works.
That's right.
Hello?
James Starling answers the phone and immediately identified myself as a detective with Atlanta PD homicide.
Hey, what's going on, man?
What you want me?
So your name came up in the case I'm working.
I don't understand.
We have a murder warrant for you.
It was his silence. I'm like, hello? And he's like, I'm here. I'm like, we need you to come down and talk to us to clear this up.
Hello? All right, listen, man. I'm new in homicide. I don't think this was you, okay? But you just gotta come in here so we can get your side of things.
All right, I'll come in.
All right, I'll see you tomorrow.
Good stuff, Vinny.
So this was a total ruse to get James Starling into our office. And it actually worked.
All right, let's bring it home.
The next day, James Starling shows up for the interview.
All right.
This brother is wearing the red and blue ball cap described by the people that have stepped up as witnesses. We're loving this.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, man.
Sure.
At this point, we don't really have enough to arrest James Starling. But the idea is if we can get James Starling talking, he may give up something that gives us that little bit of a nudge for us to arrest him.
You doing okay?
I've been better.
He looked very concerned, like wide-eyed, waiting for me to say something.
You can relax, James. We don't actually have a warrant for you.
For real?
You can get up and leave whenever you want.
I said, I apologize that I had to tell you that. I had a feeling if I didn't say that, you wouldn't come down. He looked relieved, and that's exactly where we wanted James Starling. He now feels comfortable.
But your name did come up in our case, and you're here right now, so let's get you on record.
What could I do?
We start chopping it up.
You know a man named Lawrence Green?
No, but I mean, I met him, but I wouldn't say I know him.
Okay, how'd you meet?
At Northside Pond, he wanted to buy this computer off me for $50. So I gave him my number. We could hook up later.
That lines up exactly what Robert Valley told us over at the pawn shop. So we're cooking with gas now.
And did you guys hook up?
Yeah.
So where did that happen?
At his place.
What's great about this thing is he's putting himself in the company of our victim on the date of his death, but we got to keep pushing.
And you sold the computer to Mr. Green?
No, I was having issues logging in, so I took it and I left.
We're not buying that. We know he's involved more. He's just holding back.
Now, was anybody else there with you when you were selling the computer?
No. Well, this girl Tiffany, but she didn't get out the car.
At this point, we have 3 other eyewitnesses that put 3 people at the scene with our victim. There's no doubt James Starling is lying right now.
So what's Tiffany's last name?
I don't know it.
What about Tiffany's phone number?
I don't have that.
Okay, let's backtrack for a second. Besides Tiffany, who else was with you?
No one.
So here's where we're at, James. You're not being completely honest with us.
I swear I am.
So then tell us about the robbery and the murder.
I don't know nothing about that.
James Starling isn't budging.
And you're sticking with the story.
I am. And I guess I can leave now, right?
No. Stay right there for a second.
I knew at that point, James Starling was not going home.
You're going to booking.
Booking? For what?
I'm putting together an arrest warrant for you.
We had enough for probable cause. Not enough to prove to a jury, but you don't need that for an arrest.
Well, look, you heard him, man. All right? Come on, stand up.
We have plenty of time to build this case. Our concern was if we let him leave this office today, not only is he going to get in the win, he's going to tip off the other 2 suspects. We couldn't take that chance.
We got a warrant for James Starling, charging him with murder and armed robbery, and sent him straight to the city jail.
We had 1 suspect down and 2 to go.
To further solidify our case against Starling, we put his photo in a 6-person lineup and show it to our star witness, Gerald Williams.
All right, look, thanks for coming in, man.
He's the only person we could really show this lineup to right now.
All right, so we got some photos for you to look at.
All right.
Check it out.
And he's looking at 1, he's looking at 2, and we had James Starling in 3, and he just glossed over that.
Nothing yet.
and I feel this pit in my stomach develop, and he goes to 4, and then he goes to 5, and then he goes to 6, and I'm thinking he's gonna go back to 3. I know he's going back to 3.
I mean, nobody looks familiar. You have any other ones?
It's like the carpet got pulled out from underneath us.
Sorry.
Maybe it's because the brother had on a ball cap. Maybe that's why Gerald Williams can't make him in the photographic lineup.
This actually makes us think maybe we just jumped the gun too quickly on arresting James Starling.
Appreciate your time.
Right now, we're a little nervous. Did the rookies mess up or what? This is a major blow to our case.
Even though Gerald failed to ID Starling, we're still convinced he's one of the suspects.
We decide we gotta do a search warrant. Let's go to his crib, see if we can find some piece of evidence that gives this case a boost in the arm.
All right, here you go. So, as you can see, that's a warrant to search the premises.
We find out he actually lives with both of his parents. We understand you have a job to do. Change rooms in the back.
They were good people.
Thank you.
They were very cooperative. And immediately we see the clothes that were particularly described by our witnesses and James himself that he was wearing on the day he met our victim. A red t-shirt and black shorts.
Oh, Parmalat.
It reads Parmalat across the front.
So we collected those 2 items as evidence.
So we gotta harken back to when we dealt with Abraham at the front desk.
Asked about Parmalat.
People that were involved in this homicide had come downstairs and asked to spell the word Parmalat.
Mama, hey, do you know the specs?
James worked there.
Yeah, we definitely want to back that.
And what we don't see in this room is a gun, a computer, or anything else linking James to the crime.
Does James own a gun?
No, but I do. 2, in fact. I keep them locked up.
Can you show us?
So we take James' dad over to the safe, opens up the safe. There are no guns in it.
All right, so now what kind of guns are supposed to be up in here?
A little .22 revolver and a black .38.
We know our witness described the gunman that produced the gun. He said it was a black .38. That gun is gone.
Okay, where's your son's car? The maroon Buick?
No, that car actually belongs to my other son, Marcus, and he's out.
We got a situation now where the gun is gone, this burgundy car that was described is no longer there, and we got this brother, Marcus Wright, who's unaccounted for.
What's your son Marcus look like?
He's a heavy set, dark skin, short hair. That matches the description of our gunman. This has got to be our missing link.
When's the last time you seen him?
Like a week ago?
We need to find Marcus Wright. We need to find out if he's involved in this.
So I guess I can get up and leave now, right?
No, you're going to booking.
Only 4 days into the investigation,
You heard the man.
me and my partner arrest 29-year-old James Starling for the murder and armed robbery of our victim, Lawrence Green. While searching Starling's home, the case takes a turn.
All right, is your son's car here? The maroon Buick?
No, that car actually belongs to my other son, Marcus, and he's out.
We've possibly identified one of the 2 other men with James Starling on the night our victim was killed as his brother, Marcus Wright.
When's the last time you seen him?
Like a week ago?
We still have a lot of work to do.
Thank y'all so much. Appreciate it. Okay.
At that point, we were confident Marcus Wright was also involved in this murder.
It was most likely the guy that had the gun, but we needed to prove it. We decided to go back to our witness, Gerald Williams, but this time with a photograph in the lineup of Marcus Wright.
Even though he didn't ID James Starling, maybe he'd ID his brother.
All right, so thanks for meeting us again. Now look, we got another photo lineup that we want to show you.
Okay.
We have this lineup in hand of Marcus Wright. He's in the number 5 spot.
So just like before, study each picture and see if you recognize anybody from that day. Cool? Okay.
We're hoping upon hope he comes through on this second viewing.
It's him.
He puts his finger on number 5 and says, that's the guy with the gun.
You sure?
I'm positive. He was a big guy with a .38.
He's pointing to Marcus Wright. We are there. We got 2 out of 3 right now. So now it's 5 days into the investigation of our victim. It's May 30th. We get a warrant for the arrest of Marcus Wright for armed robbery and the homicide of our victim, Lawrence Green.
Yeah, got some grub.
Here you go.
Any word from the fugitive unit yet?
Not yet.
We got our personal bloodhounds on the case. They're searching and scouring all of Metro Atlanta, trying to find Marcus Wright.
But there's an APB on the car too, so it's only a matter of time.
He may be in the wind. He may be running, knowing that we're coming after him.
Velasquez. Uh-huh. That's great. Hold on a second. Marcus is in custody.
Damn.
How'd it go down?
We went to his parents' house.
Do you know where your son is?
No.
Okay, we're gonna have to take a look around your house.
The fugitive detective gets a tip that Marcus Wright is inside of the family dwelling.
This one particular fugitive detective, he is relentless. And I knew when he had that case, if Marcus Wright is in that house, he's walking out with this detective.
He goes to the pantry and he can peer through and actually see a couple of feet.
Down him. Come out there with your hands up. Let me see your hands. Keep your hands up where I can see them. Walk toward my voice.
That's great work, man.
Thanks.
All right, what time are you delivering him to us?
I wanted to, but he shut down.
He totally says he has nothing to say to homicide, and the fugitive team takes him straight to jail.
All right, thanks a lot, man.
At this point in the investigation, we got two asses in jail that aren't saying a word. I mean, they've gone ghost on us. They're not giving any information. We're at an impasse. We don't know where to go next.
Yo, we still need to ID this third guy.
Yeah.
Where's the box?
This is the person that actually pushed our victim out of the window. We're still scratching our heads. We don't know who he is.
Yo, so I've been looking for known associates for the brothers, but I'm coming up empty, man.
We're waiting on manna from heaven. Hopefully we get some kind of a hook and we can figure out who number 3 is. Something's got to give.
Velasquez, homicide.
So out of nowhere, I got a surprising call that changed everything.
What's your name?
Akira Watson.
Akira, how can I help you?
I have some information on the case with a guy who went out the window.
This was a call directly from God, unsolicited. We didn't do any media, and we get a hookup like this. It was an amazing moment.
What can you tell us?
Maybe she can tell us who the third suspect is.
It was a good hiding spot, but we got him.
James Starling and his brother, Marcus Wright, have been arrested.
That's great work, man.
We have 2 suspects in custody for the armed robbery and murder of Lawrence Green, but we still got 1 outstanding.
What's your name?
Akira Watson.
Out of the blue, we get a call. This woman says, I know who the killer is. We couldn't believe it.
Go on.
My man said he did it.
Akira goes on to say that the father of her 2 small children actually confessed to killing our victim.
Okay, Akira, I'd like for you to come to my office so we can speak in person. Can you do that?
Yes.
This is important information. Like, we can't do this over the phone. We got to get Akira into our office. I end the call. She agrees to come right over.
Thanks.
Akira Watson comes to the office just as scheduled.
All right, Akira, so let's start from the beginning. Talk to us.
The guy that I'm talking about is my baby's daddy, Ricordio.
She tells us that the father of her children is 24-year-old Ricordio Jackson. He calls and tells her, I got something to tell you, but I don't want you to be mad at me.
Okay, and what did he say?
He said that he and the guy Marcus went to rob a guy near MLK Drive at the YMCA.
It was all a setup on selling a computer. It was just something they pretended to do in an effort to rob the victim. And this guy ended up dying in the process.
And he said that the victim went out the window?
Yes.
This is all adding up. She's talking about our case. There's no doubt about it.
Ricordio was feeling bad.
He is struggling with the fact that someone died while he was out doing some dirt. You gotta tell somebody. Who better to tell than your woman?
Or were there any other people involved?
Mm-hmm. The other guy's brother.
According to Ricordio, a guy named James actually set the lick up.
Ricordio said that he and the old guy were fighting during the robbery and he fell out the window.
She says Recordio admitted that he hit the guy during the robbery, and the next thing he knew, the guy went out the window. That's our case right here, 1,000%.
Okay, now, did he say anything else?
That's it.
This is a third-party confession. This is information that a jury gets to hear because she's regurgitating facts that only the killer would know. So at this point, Akira has described our case factually 100%. She's wrapped this thing up in a nice, pretty bow for us. Just like we had done before, we printed a photo of Recordio Jackson, put it in the lineup, and showed it to our star witness, Gerald Williams.
This was the third time meeting with him. Right away, he picked Recordio Jackson as the person that pushed Lawrence Green out the window.
On June 26, 2001, we secured a warrant for Recordio Jackson, charging him with armed robbery and felony murder.
We received information that Recordio was at home in DeKalb County.
He was quickly arrested without incident.
He refused to speak with us, so he was transported directly to the city jail.
We've got the gunman, we've got the setup man, and we got the guy who physically assaulted our victim and pushed him out the window. We couldn't be in a better place for the second case of our homicide careers.
While awaiting trial, we received news that threatens to derail our case.
Yo, you're not gonna believe this.
What's up?
See for yourself.
Oh, man.
We get a notice from James Starling, attorney, saying that his client has an alibi for the day in question, the day our victim, Lawrence Green, was killed.
All right, now. What in the actual hell is this dude up to?
Lawyer says his client has an alibi.
He's got a human being jumping up and down saying that James Starling was with someone else. He couldn't have been there.
Which doesn't make sense.
Nah.
I gotta think back. He himself, in his interview with us, said, I was there. I met the victim. But who is this witness? What are they gonna say?
Yo, we need to speak to whoever this alibi is. ASAP.
We gotta find out who this alibi is and see if they give us a sit down.
All right, let me see that number.
We might actually be in trouble.
So I need the name of James Starling's alibi.
This could throw our case right off the track.
Go on.
My man said he did it.
We've arrested 3 men for the murder of 51-year-old Lawrence Green, Recordio Jackson, Marcus Wright, and Marcus's brother, James Starling.
Yo, you're not gonna believe this.
What's up?
While awaiting trial, Starling tries to rewrite his part of the story. Now we got the guy we believe that set this whole thing up. He's got his attorney filing motions in court saying he has an alibi witness.
We need to speak to whoever this alibi is. ASAP.
Starling actually puts himself at our crime scene. This makes absolutely no sense.
I need the name of James Starling's alibi. Give me a second.
James Starling is now claiming that he was with his girlfriend, Jaleesa White, 8 miles away at her house during the time of the homicide.
All right, thanks. All right, so Starling says his girlfriend is the alibi.
We got to acknowledge that we were goose eggs on getting him identified in a lineup.
Yo, this could bite us in the ass, man.
Let's roll.
We don't want to give a defense attorney ammunition against us. We got to start working the case again if that's what it means.
With this new information, we decided to visit Starling's girlfriend, Jaleesa White. But the odd thing was she refused to give a statement. The next thing we know, Marcus Wright made a deal.
In exchange for the murder charge, he pleads guilty to aggravated assault with intent to rob.
And received a lesser sentence of 15 years.
Then Recordio Jackson followed suit. He pleads guilty to voluntary manslaughter and receives a sentence of 18 years.
Part of his plea deal was to give a full confession, to talk about all of the events that led up to our victim's death.
It was time to sit down with him and find out exactly what happened that day.
All right, so you gotta come with the truth today.
So, how did you get involved in all this?
James set it up. He said he met this guy at a pawn shop.
Hey, what's up, OG? You looking to buy a computer?
That's right.
Okay, I got a real nice one I can sell to you.
That lines up with what we learned in the beginning of this investigation. We noted James Starling was at the pawn shop talking to our victim, and he posed a story about selling a computer.
He said we'd pull in a Jeep.
We know the transaction in James Starling's own mouth to us was that he was gonna sell a computer for $50, but that doesn't line up.
Hold up, you were promised $1,000?
Yep.
James Starling is just trying to get him some incentive to come along with the plot and just get whatever our victim had. $1,000 is a good lick.
Me and his brother were there to help out.
Once James Starling put together this lick bait for his co-conspirators, he told them to meet him at 22 Butler Street so they can commence with this robbery.
When James couldn't get the computer to work, he left and told us to get the money.
Hey, you know what's up? Turn around.
He said his job was just to go through the pockets, but our victim, Lawrence Green, started fighting. He started bucking. I ain't giving you nothing.
So Recordio admits to hitting our victim, striking him one time in the face. But he says he didn't push him out of the window.
Okay, so you didn't push him out the window?
No, he just fell.
Now, that's not what our witness says. Our other victim that's in the room, Gerald, that sees this whole thing go down, he clearly says the person that hit Lawrence pushed him out the window.
Okay, so we have an eyewitness that gave a different story.
I'm telling you, I didn't push him or nothing. He fell by himself.
Recordio is staying so far away from that. Doesn't matter. If you commit a felony, whether he jumped out of the window on his own or fell out of the window accidentally, while that robbery is occurring, what Recordio Jackson disadmitted to was felony murder.
I can't help it if the old man can't keep his balance.
Recordio Jackson didn't appear to show any remorse. He's self-serving, and that may explain why his girlfriend gave him up.
This was a botched lick where the perpetrators got nothing. Just took a man's life on a whim for a possible lick that was going to yield nothing but $50.
We all took off. James asked me if I got any cash from the guy, and I told him no.
He didn't seem to care about our victim so much as he did himself. And that's the reason he took this plea deal.
Stand up for me.
With Recordio Jackson's statement, Starling's alibi will be shredded in court.
Right before the trial, James Starling, he takes a plea for aggravated assault with intent to rob. Because James Starling wasn't actually inside room 313, he's able to hook up a deal where he only sits for 4 years in prison.
It was a disappointing end to a tough case.
We're getting spoon-fed some pretty harsh cereal here. I mean, it's a situation where the guy that actually put this lick together, he gets to go home early. So that part hurts.
Think it jumped?
Jumped, fell, pushed. We'll have to see.
This case was kind of incredible because we got to really cut our teeth in learning how to do this job.
All right, I'm not spotting like a suicide note or nothing like that, right?
No.
We knew to investigate the death of a human being is one of the greatest responsibilities that could be bestowed on any detective. And we didn't take that lightly.
Then they pushed him out the window.
That's part of this case that resonates with me.
Not exactly about a textbook.
The second part is us being brand new, trying something out of the box.
What you want with me? So your name came up in a case I'm working.
Something we've never done that really became...
Going back to the Old West. As the capital of Oklahoma, it enjoys booming industries in energy and livestock. But in 2014, the city was thrown into turmoil as a shocking number of its most vulnerable women fell prey to a wolf in she's in the middle of a state where oil wells dot the landscape and cowboy culture runs deep. It was founded by ambitious homesteaders in 1889 when the U.S. government opened up 2 million acres for settlement.
What they did was with the land run was when they opened it up, they took off early and started mapping out and cutting out land spots for themselves. That's why they were considered the Sooners.
Among those settlers were thousands of former slaves.
The whole boomer sooner thing, a lot of the people that rushed the land here came from the South. They came from areas where there was slavery. Black people were in it, and they did get land.
It was promoted in the Black culture that Oklahoma City was this open place for Black people, open place for a family to come in and have the opportunity to own their own business, opportunity for their kids to receive the best education as possible.
All that changed when Oklahoma became the 46th state in 1907. Oklahoma City became the state's capital, and the all-white legislature enacted laws enforcing racial segregation.
The first bill that the Oklahoma legislative body passed was, the first law was Jim Crow. And so the minute that the Jim Crow law was passed, that handicapped the black community. One of the reasons why they put in place Jim Crow laws, because they saw that the black community was seceding. Once the Jim Crow laws took place, blacks were defined into one area. Blacks could no longer eat in the same establishment as a white person. Blacks could no longer be educated with a white child.
Black residents were restricted to the northeast side of the city in neighborhoods known as Bricktown and the Deep Deuce.
The Deep Deuce area is more of the entertainment and food, and Bricktown was more so the residential area where you'd have your houses, you know, a few restaurants, but not the same level of music that was happening on the Deep Deuce.
The redlining districts place a black eye upon the city as a whole, but it allowed for something creative to be done. You had a community who loved music. They created some of the world's best musicians, jazz musicians.
It was the place that everybody in this city wanted to be. To come over at night, to come over for the nightlife, for the food.
The oil boom of 1928 brought prosperity to everyone, including the city's black communities. And the oppressive Jim Crow laws began to loosen with the civil rights movement of the 1950s.
Oklahoma City, I believe, played a major role in the whole civil rights movement.
The very first sit-in movement took place in Oklahoma City. It was our youth department that actually put that on.
On August 19th, 1958, students led by school teacher Clara Looper sat at the lunch counter of a downtown drugstore and asked to be served.
They were denied service, but they kept coming back to the diner, they kept sitting, and they persisted.
Eventually, the store management agreed to integrate its lunch counters at all 38 of its drugstores in 4 states.
But that's not the end of the story. Dow versus the Board of Education here in Oklahoma City allowed for desegregation to happen. Blacks could send their kids to schools somewhat of their choice. Blacks could be elected officials. It opened up that door.
When we look at Clara Looper that started the sit-in movement, these are history-making decisions.
As the walls of segregation began to fall, black communities faced another issue.
When everything was opened up and we was forced to have to be busing and those particular type of things, folks had a tendency to move out of the neighborhood.
Middle-class black people chose to leave, which left working-class black folks and those who are very close in the line of poverty. The East Side has been neglected for a very long time. We don't have basic things that communities should have. There's not jobs available. There's not income available in this area.
Those neighborhoods also saw a significant increase in arrests, which many activists blame on over-policing.
Why are you heavily policing this side? We're not the only part of town that deals with drugs, poverty, and crime. We're not. But we still have the heaviest police presence.
Having grown up in Northeast Oklahoma City, you do see a lot of law enforcement. Racial profiling exists. I have experienced racial profiling as a black man who was in leadership position. I see it every single day.
The community's mistrust of law enforcement would reach a fever pitch in the summer of 2014 when a black woman became the victim of a sexual predator. Tuesday, June 18, 2014, around 3:40 a.m., a pair of Oklahoma City officers are talking beside their squad cars when they're approached by two women, 57-year-old Janie Liggins and her daughter Marisha.
They're both extremely upset, and the daughter tells them that her mother was just assaulted by a guy who's also a cop.
I pull up and I said, we need to file a report. Ain't got time for no playing right now.
Janie said it happened after an officer pulled her over during a traffic stop, and the officer forced her to perform oral sex on him.
They was asking me questions about what had happened, and I was telling them. I started crying them, and I was just crying, telling them what had happened.
They saw how serious we were, so they did what they were supposed to do, and I'm glad they did, but didn't take us as a joke.
The officers report the incident, and Janie is taken to the hospital for treatment. Within hours, an investigation will be launched, and the outcome will leave its mark on the city for decades to come. For Janie Liggins, family roots in Oklahoma City run deep.
I was born and raised on the east side, and I've been there forever. And even though I don't live on the east side now, I come to the east side every day. My mom had 9 kids all by herself. We didn't have a father figure around when we was growing up, so her mom pretty much raised us while she worked every day, worked hard.
It takes a village, and everyone pitched in, and, if one was down, they would help each other out. Because, that was what it took in order to survive.
In 1975, Janie started a family of her own.
I got pregnant by with my high school sweetheart, and I later on did marry him. But by me being young, I thought it was something kind of cute, which it wasn't.
Unfortunately, her marriage wouldn't last. After the divorce, Janie became a single mother to 4 children.
At one point, we ended up staying with my grandmother full time. My mom worked in a lot of clothing stores and, cashiers and just a lot of, like I said, retail. Right now, she's the director at a daycare.
At 42, she also became a grandmother for the first time.
She enjoys being a grandmother. I think seeing her the grandkids it just puts a newfound love in her heart. Like her heart just grows just being a grandmother.
Being a grandparent, I love it.
And on one fateful night in January 2014, Janie would go from enjoying her quiet life as a mother and grandmother to fearing that she may never see her family again. Abuse of power in law enforcement has been a problem in the United States for decades. But in 2013, a movement known as Black Lives Matter brought the issue into sharp focus.
Black Lives Matter started in 2013 after George Zimmerman was acquitted for the killing of Trayvon Martin. It was the beginning of years-long protests and marches demanding racial justice.
The hashtag became internationally recognized after the police killings of Eric Garner and Michael Brown.
Videos of those killings circulated on social media, and it led to the Black Lives Matters marches to protest police brutality. This movement helped bring attention to the issues of police encounters in Black communities.
Historically, the community as a whole had this whole deal of distrust because of the whole criminal justice system.
It's a problem nationwide, and you feel like you're being targeted just, because of the way you look. So you know that you have to do everything by the book. You have to be perfect, or else you're going to cause a problem when you feel like it's not fair.
I run the risk anytime I leave my house, them stopping me. Anytime I leave my house, I might be confronted. We've been intimidated, and it's based on past practice. Put your hands on the steering wheel a certain way. Don't reach for nothing too quickly. That's the kind of conditioning we've been put in based on past practice, previous behavior, knowing that we know. All of these things run through your head at the same time. You say, whoa, here I got this man forcing me to do something. He got a gun. I hope he don't kill me after that.
And the latest victim is 57-year-old Janie Liggins, who has just filed a police report after being assaulted by an Oklahoma City police officer.
They did a the rape kit on her to see, if he had any bodily fluids or, I guess just the proper protocol for that type of situation.
After the exam, a sex crimes detective with the Oklahoma City Police Department meets with Janie in her hospital room.
I'm laying up there looking like H-E-L-L. She said, when I saw you laying there, she said, I know you was telling the truth.
Janie tells the detective that she was driving home from a friend's house at 2 a.m. when the attack unfolded.
When I was driving, I noticed this car light behind me. And then they got from behind me and they got to the left of me. I was driving. And I looked, I said, that's the police. I said, I wonder what they want. He got back behind me. He put his lights on. I hadn't done anything, so I pulled over to the side, and that's when he got out. He didn't actually see my ID or anything, no license, he didn't ask for anything. He said, stop me. I said, I was swerving. I'm like, sir, I wasn't swerving. Then he said, what is this in that cup you're drinking? I said, this is Kool-Aid, sir. It's some cherry Kool-Aid. I said, you can taste it if you want to, or you can smell it. He didn't want to.
He tells her to get out the car and takes her back to his patrol vehicle. At this point, she has no idea why he stopped her or what's about to happen.
When I walked back there, he said, put your hands on the car. And I put my hands on the car, he started patting me down. He said, let me know if you got anything on you, and I won't take you to jail. I said, sir, I don't have anything on me. So he patted me down, couldn't find nothing. He went back to my car. I guess he searched, tried to find something, and he couldn't find anything. He came back. He said, turn around. I swung around. And that's when he told me to pull my pants down. I said, pull my pants down, sir. He said, yeah, pull your pants down. So I'm wondering why he want me to put my pants down. So I unbuttoned my pants and I pulled them down. He takes a flashlight, started going between my legs. So I pulled my pants down real fast.
Janie was already terrified, but the worst was yet to come.
He unzipped his pants. He took his pants and I said, come on, God, all day. I said, oh no, I'm doing my hands like that. I said, oh no, sir. I said, sir, please don't make me do this, sir. I said, I'm a grandmother. I got grandkids. He didn't care. He said, hurry up. He said, I just got off of work.
Think about your mother or your grandmother, your sister, any female. I'm gonna force you to do something, and I got a gun, and I got a badge. You fear for your life.
They're interrupted by headlights from a passing car, and there's no telling what would have happened had they not been interrupted.
He turned and looked at the car, waved to his left, then he turned back around. I guess he saw the fear in my face. That's when he zipped his pants up.
Finally, the officers decided to let Janie go.
I'm so afraid. I'm thinking when I get out, just know he's gonna shoot me in the back. I was scared to even walk off.
The fear of knowing that this officer who just did this, and you still have all my information. You still know where I live. You know my car. I would imagine what you would think is, let me just get out of here before he changes his mind.
He took off so fast, it was unreal. He was speeding. I mean, fast, real fast.
She drove straight to her daughter's house and told her what happened, and I can't even imagine how she must have felt.
I got upset because I could see the fear and terror in her eyes. I got so upset, I just started screaming and banging on the wall. I just couldn't even contain myself. I was so upset.
Janie wasn't able to see the officer's badge, but she does provide a general description.
When she tried to describe this officer, she said, he's a tall, well-built, he was a well-built man. At that time, Oklahoma City Police was switching off from the all black and white vehicles to all black vehicles. One of the things that she said that she does remember was the type of vehicle that stopped her, and it was in all black.
When a police officer commits a crime, people in communities like East Oklahoma City often assume they'll get away with it because the system protects them.
The blue wall of silence is a well-known phrase in policing where there's a code amongst police officers to remain loyal to each other. Oftentimes, victims of police brutality will not come forward because they don't think they would take their word over the police's word. Oklahoma City has long been criticized for not holding bad cops accountable. Although the department made a review board that's composed of people from the community from different backgrounds, cultures, and ethnicities, many people from the community feel that that oversight is not enough.
For many in Oklahoma City's black communities, violent police practices are nothing new. But the sexual assault of a grandmother comes as a shock to everyone.
Everyone was upset, very, very upset. Like, these people are supposed to sit on our side of town and protect and serve, and y'all sitting here, we scared to live.
After taking Janie Ligon's statement, detectives begin a formal investigation. Their first lead is the black squad car Janie says the officer was driving.
Janie said that her attacker was driving an all-black police cruiser, and there weren't too many people driving that type of car. Plus, the cruiser was equipped with a GPS device.
Unfortunately, none of the GPS tracking data matches the encounter Janie describes. When investigators check security cameras in the area, however, they find video evidence of the traffic stop.
There was security camera from right across the street where she said this happened. And it was a little grainy. It wasn't very clear, but you did see a red vehicle. You did see a black cruiser, the lights flashing. And they looked at the black cruiser and they were able to narrow down who they were looking for. The officer they were able to identify was Daniel Holtzclaw.
29-year-old Daniel Holtzclaw has been with the department for 3 years. Although he fits the general description, he's the last person anyone would suspect of committing a sex crime. For Daniel Holtzclaw, law enforcement ran in the family. He was born in 1986 in the U.S. island territory of Guam, where his father served in the Air Force Security Police.
He lived in Guam for a while until he was a little boy. Then he moved to Enid, and that's where he grew up. His mom was Japanese. His dad is such a nice guy.
Daniel's father worked for the Enid Police Department as a police officer, and over the years he rose to lieutenant.
Daniel was a star football player in high school and went on to play in college. He planned to turn pro, but when he didn't make the NFL draft, he decided to follow in his father's footsteps instead.
He had a degree in criminal justice, and he wanted to make a name for himself as a police officer, and he got a job about 3 hours away from where he grew up in Enid in Oklahoma City.
Daniel was also active in his local church, which is where he met his girlfriend.
They would read scripture together. So pretty religious guy, pretty calm demeanor. He wanted to become one of those good old cops that really gets to know the community, wanted to be ingrained and rooted in the community that he was patrolling.
Now it seems that Daniel's clean-cut, all-American image may have been a lie. The next day, Daniel shows up for his 4 p.m. shift to find investigators waiting for him.
Daniel, just have to sit in here.
Yeah. Daniel remains calm throughout the interview, but admits that he did stop Janie Liggins that night.
There was a traffic stop. Somebody made some allegations against an officer. They don't know the officer's name, none of that. And you said that you made a traffic stop after work.
Yeah.
Why didn't you call dispatch? Why isn't it showing up? Why did you turn off your computer? And that was actually against the protocol. You can't turn your computer off if you're making stops. And he had done that.
Okay. Tell me about that stop.
The car swerves, and so at the time I'm thinking, okay, it's probably a drunk person, or maybe got excited because they saw a cop.
He mentioned the drink he spotted in her car, which confirmed his suspicions that she was driving under the influence, but that's where the similarities end.
I'm like, is there anything inside of that Kool-Aid? Is there liquor or anything inside that Kool-Aid? She's no. Just talking to her, what's the deal? Why are you driving late at 2 o'clock at night, Why did you swerve? And I cut her loose after that.
Then where'd you go?
I went straight home.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like this is the lady, this is the deal where she's the complaining party. Okay. And she's making some sexual allegations. She's saying that you made her lift up her shirt, and when she lifted up her shirt, she exposed her breasts.
No.
What about pants?
Nothing in her pants as far as I could. She was wearing tight jeans. So
She said she pulled them down.
I didn't see it.
Did your pants come unzipped, unbuttoned, anything while you were standing right there?
No.
Did she see your penis?
No.
I'm just trying to think of anything that she could have misconstrued. Or why did she go to all this trouble?
Daniel continues to deny any wrongdoing, but due to the seriousness of the allegations, he is put on administrative leave.
They asked him to take off his uniform. All of it was going to be part of evidence.
Following the interview, police informed Janie that they found the officer in question, but it does little to calm her nerves.
I was tormented, but I don't know what to expect. It's at one point in time that I wouldn't even leave my house. Every light I would see, I would look out the window and see it was a police car. He really put a dent in my life. He messed up my life.
As days pass with no new information, Janie begins to fear that police may be reluctant to take down one of their own. So she decides to take matters into her own hands. Following the suspension of Officer Daniel Holtzclaw, Oklahoma City's Fraternal Order of Police issues a statement, urging everyone to reserve judgment until the investigation is completed. For his accuser, 57-year-old Janie Liggins, there is no doubt, however, and she wonders if he's assaulted other women too.
Most have a tendency to not even make a complaint. I get abused or misused, we get dusted off. As long as we don't get killed, we shake it off and we carry on.
Janie reaches out to a local TV station, and on June 23rd, just 5 days after the attack, she appears on the evening news.
She said part of the reason she came forward is because she wanted to make sure that this did not get swept under the rug. She didn't know what investigators were doing in the background. She wanted to be taken seriously. She's a Black woman. She wanted to make sure that the community know that this was happening, that this had happened to her.
She is shown in silhouette to protect her identity. Then she walks through the details of her attack.
He said, hurry up. He said, I just got off of duty. He said, I don't have all night. I said, oh, no, sir. I said, you ain't supposed to do this. I said, you ain't supposed to do this to me, sir.
Her name wasn't out there. It was just her description, her age, that she was a Black woman, which, by the way, was also very disturbing. You know, this is literally somebody's grandmother. Totally disturbing.
I'm just glad he didn't kill me. I'm just glad I was able to live and tell my story.
Meanwhile, investigators are continuing to gather evidence, digging deeper into Officer Holtzclaw's record.
Even though Daniel had only been on the police force for 3 years, he had at least a dozen complaints filed against him for excessive force. In each case, he was cleared of any wrongdoing.
Police officers don't get charged things here. They don't. It's not a common thing to have a police officer charged with a felony.
The worst of the charges involved 38-year-old Clifton Armstrong, who died in 2013 while being taken into custody.
Daniel was one of 4 officers who responded to a call about Clifton Armstrong. Clifton was having a mental breakdown and was high on meth. The officers tackled him, and then they did a restraint called the maximum restraint hobble system. This employs handcuffs and nylon straps to essentially hogtie someone.
The technique is controversial and has led to deaths and several arrests. For detectives, Holtzclaw's willingness to use excessive force is another mark against him. And that's not all they find.
While detectives are going through police records, they find another case similar to Janie's. The woman had filed a police report just a month prior, claiming that an unidentified police officer had forced her to perform oral sex on him.
Police find the potential witness in a homeless shelter, but she refuses to answer any of their questions.
She has a clear distrust of police officers, but she's also traumatized, refusing to even look at a photo lineup.
I want to, please. I just want to leave it alone. I just want to go. I just want to go about my life, please. Please, no, I don't want to see him. Oh my God, no.
She was put in the back of a police car. The door was open. He was able to do all these things to her, and then he left her there, drove off. Didn't arrest her, didn't give her a ticket, didn't do anything to her. So this is kind of similar to what had happened to Miss Liggins.
Hoping to find more evidence, investigators pull the names of every woman Officer Holtzclaw checked into his vehicle's computer and asked them for their stories.
They basically had to go knocking on doors, finding these women. They wanted to really have that face-to-face and really read people. So they had to really play it really carefully because they didn't want to give too much away, but also they wanted to make sure that they pulled enough information from them to see whether or not they had been victimized. They hit the streets, basically, to try and find these women. Some of them saying, yes, this happened to me. And then slowly that list starts building up.
Janie's efforts help more survivors come forward as well.
Media plays a major role in fixing our society. When we don't tell the whole story, when we only tell a piece of the story, when we don't go with the underdog and challenging the system, that's what fails us.
Putting my story out on TV made these women come forward and tell, it opened them up to tell that, that this happened to them.
These survivors were brave. The survivors were absolutely brave to come forward. My heart went out to each survivor.
Still, investigators can't charge Holtzclaw with any crimes based on circumstantial evidence alone. They need proof, and they're hoping science can provide it. When Janie Liggins stepped forward, she had to overcome the fears and misconceptions that many women face when sexually assaulted.
Along with a general distrust of police officers, they are embarrassed, they are afraid that they might be blamed, and there's a fear of retaliation by their attacker. Rape is the least reported violent crime. Only 230 out of 1,000 attacks are even reported. That means about 3 out of every 4 attacks are unreported.
Mistrust of police in Oklahoma City's black communities had been building for decades. But the 2014 investigation into Officer Daniel Holtzclaw's alleged string of sexual assaults has put everyone on high alert.
The community was scared. Like, there was a very sense of, okay, don't drive by yourself, okay? If the police stop you, call somebody. You know, if anybody stops you, call somebody.
Every time I see a police officer, I just panic. There's so much fear in my heart after what he done to me. It's just unreal. Like I said, I just thank God that I'm still here.
The stakes can't be any higher, and investigators are collecting as much evidence as they can to take this predator off the streets.
As the police began to question women, most of them told a horrifying, similar story of being singled out by a large, muscular officer who forces them to have sex with him or perform oral sex on him. One woman says that the officer threatened to throw her into jail for an outstanding warrant if she did not comply with him.
I don't think I'm thinking is I don't want to get in trouble. You know, I don't know what, that's why I'm not questioning the situation.
The woman claims the officer took her into her home and raped her.
I told him to hold his gun to the side because it's kind of slapping me in the face. And then he told me to lay back. Then he got out talking to me. Then he started having sex with me.
Another woman says that she was just walking down the street when she was stopped by an officer.
I was like, it was him trying to fall on my breast. I just told him to let me go.
Did he ever try to get you to touch him? How come you didn't tell the police?
GPS information from Officer Holtzclaw's vehicle places him at the locations his victims describe. Investigators also asked the women to provide DNA samples, hoping to come up with a match. The results are inconclusive.
The DNA test of Daniel's clothing had come back, and it indicated female DNA near the zipper of his pants. The DNA test did not match Janie Liggins or Daniel's girlfriend.
Facing public pressure, officials decide to bring charges despite the lack of a DNA match. On August 21st, Daniel Holtzclaw is arrested for the sexual assaults of 7 women, including Janie Liggins.
It was breaking news here in the city. He was working out at Gold's Gym, so he was still enjoying his life while other people just can't even live their life no more.
I was shocked. I was shocked not at the act, but that he was charged. Here in Oklahoma City, no. It was shocking.
He was targeting those that we would consider vulnerable, those that might have made a mistake, those that might have gotten caught up in the system. He looked at those as someone to prey on.
Over the following months, investigators continue building their case against Holtzclaw. They find even more women willing to come forward, as well as some crucial new evidence.
The youngest survivor, she was a runaway. She was a reported runaway, the 17-year-old at the time. He targeted her because you're in the system. You're a runaway.
And authorities say it's her DNA that matches the sample found near Holtzclaw's zipper.
By this point, 13 victims had come forward, and now there's even physical evidence as well.
In January 2015, the Oklahoma City Police Department fires Holtzclaw, a move supported by the police union.
Typically, across the country, you have seen the fraternal of police stand by their officer, no matter what. But in this case, they said, hold up, we can no longer represent him.
The police department had washed their hands from Daniel Holtzclaw. They didn't want anything to do with him. They fired him and they sent him on trial.
Daniel's supporters are still convinced he is innocent, setting the scene for a highly publicized battle that will be fought in and out of the courtroom.
It is sad to say race was the factor of the divide. It was, because the survivors were Black.
On November 3rd, 2015, the trial of former Oklahoma City police officer Daniel Holtzclaw gets underway. He stands accused of sexually assaulting at least 13 women, and if convicted, he could face life in prison. Public outrage over the case has continued to grow, and the selection of an all-white jury doesn't improve the situation.
I was furious when the jury was chosen.
It was just no diversity in, everybody was white, and there was not one Black in sight, so they felt like, well, we lost already.
To have that all-white jury with plenty of white men on it triggered the thoughts of Black people not receiving justice.
Prosecutors describe Holtzclaw as a predator who chose his victims carefully.
The state was very straightforward. They were going to present a case that showed a police officer who got off on sexually assaulting these women. It's about power. It's about him having the power to tell these women and to do with these women whatever he wanted, and they couldn't do anything about it. I have the badge. I get to call the shots.
He underestimated Jamie Liggins, however. Not only did the 57-year-old grandmother turn him in, she's also the first of his victims to take the stand.
She was ready to get, her story told for the world. I was very proud of her.
They asked me a question or something, I look right at him and answer it, let him know, you know what you did. I wasn't really afraid at that time. I was more mad.
The state presents DNA evidence that Holtzclaw's attack on Janie was actually his second that evening. The first was on a 17-year-old girl.
The 17-year-old claims that when they got to their home, the officer walked up to the door, to the porch. She said that he went on to sexually assault her.
One by one, the other survivors tell their stories as well.
It took a lot of guts for them to come forward.
Holtzclaw's defense tries to undermine their testimony.
The defense team claims that there was no physical evidence linking Daniel to these women, and that the DNA from the teenage girl could have been left some other way.
Daniel Holtzclaw simply isn't the kind of man who could do any of these things he's accused of.
They only called in his girlfriend, one witness, to talk about what a good guy he is, why he's such a good guy, why he wants to be this do-gooder cop that gets rooted in the community. We were all waiting to see where we hear from Daniel Holtzclaw. When the defense gets up there, they bring in one witness, and then you find out Daniel Holtzclaw's not going to take the stand.
After a 5-week trial, the jury begins their deliberations. Outside the courthouse, protests continue to grow.
The Black community was out. We had every group in the city was out. We had indigenous women there. We had white men there, white women.
We're hoping the right decision and choices are being made, but we don't know what to anticipate.
On December 10th, Holtzclaw's 29th birthday, the jury reaches a verdict. They find him guilty of 18 of the 36 charges.
We were there at the courthouse when the verdict was read. The system finally worked for the citizens, for those victims in that particular situation. So it was a happy day.
As soon as the first guilty verdict started coming in, he lost it. He was bawling. He was crying. There was a lot of emotion in that courtroom as the verdicts were being read.
Although acquitted in 5 of the assaults, his combined sentence still totals 263 years in prison.
We was excited, very excited, and I was very happy everything turned out the way it did.
I felt relieved. No, he wasn't going to be back on the street messing with nobody else. I feel very relieved. Then he got 263 years.
There was relief, there was satisfaction, and then there was still disappointment for the women. He wasn't found guilty, so they didn't get justice.
The serial rapist who'd been terrorizing Oklahoma City was finally behind bars. But the struggle to address racial injustice and the abuse of power is ongoing.
Oklahoma City is a city that has prided itself on being a big league city. But however, still struggles to this day for as true equality for all of its citizens, especially folks who are people who live in Northeast Oklahoma City and people of color.
What I've seen is people who are willing to stand up for our community are now standing up and being vocal. Before, there would be a lot of conversations, but when it was time to talk about policy, they never showed up. What I have noticed is those people are using their voices more.
We celebrate the outcome, but we know it would not have been possible but for one woman's bravery. Had Janie Liggins not come forward, he might still be out there.
It takes a very, very, very strong person to challenge a system that we all know is in need of correction. She was that shero. She was that strength.
He just stopped the wrong person that night. That's all I can say. Brought the wrong woman. It's so sad. His day is coming. God got a day for him.
Trận đấu chuẩn bị được bắt đầu với quyền dẫn bóng thuộc về Manchester United.
Rodrigo. Đó là pha phản công. Bàn thắng đã tới gần, không thể bỏ lỡ. Một bàn thắng tuyệt vời.
Đó là một chân sút đẳng cấp, một cơ hội không thể tuyệt vời hơn. Manchester City đã vươn lên dẫn trước từ tình huống ra bóng. Jude Bellingham.
Như vậy là bóng đang một cú sút.
Đó là bàn thắng cho Manchester City.
Vâng, bàn thắng đầu tiên đã đem đến sự tự tin cho cầu thủ này. Và rồi, vượt lên tất nhiên, bàn thứ hai đã tới. Một bàn thắng có sự cộng hưởng của yếu tố may mắn khi nó đã đập trúng sang ngang. Rodrigo. Và giờ họ tổ chức tình huống phản công. Một cú áp bên trong ngày hôm nay, một ngày thi đấu hoàn hảo tới lúc này.
Bàn thắng đã được ghi.